When we think about what men really crave deep down, it's not always the obvious, and it's definitely not always what they'll openly admit. One of the most intriguing desires that tends to hide beneath the surface is role reversal, where she takes the lead, calls the shots, and owns the moment. For many men, there's something wildly exciting about giving up control, not because they don't enjoy leading, but because surrendering creates a kind of tension and mystery that ordinary encounters just can't replicate. It's the feeling of being pulled into her world, where she sets the rules, and he simply follows her energy. That shift in power, even for a short while, taps into a primal curiosity men carry, a curiosity about what it feels like when the woman they love steps into that bold, commanding space. Now here's the thing, most men won't tell you this. They're conditioned to believe that they always have to be in control, that their role is to lead, protect, and drive the passion forward. But when he secretly fantasizes about role reversal, he's really craving freedom. Freedom from responsibility, freedom from always being the one who initiates, and freedom to just enjoy the ride. Imagine him lying back, not having to think about what's next, not needing to plan, but instead waiting, with his heart racing, for what she's about to do. That anticipation is intoxicating because it's no longer predictable, it's no longer scripted, it's her game, and he has no choice but to play along. For a man, this experience is less about physical pleasure and more about the psychological charge it carries. There's something magnetic about watching her confidence come alive, about seeing her transform from the woman he knows in everyday life into someone who dares to command the moment. It's not just sexy, it's deeply attractive, because confidence, when expressed like this, is irresistible. Men are wired to crave variety, not necessarily in partners, but in experiences, and role reversal offers just that, a chance to step into uncharted territory without stepping out of the relationship. It's adventure without risk, danger without danger, and fantasy without betrayal. Of course, the idea of a woman taking control isn't only about what she does physically. It's about the energy she brings into the room. Maybe it's the way she pushes him down gently and whispers that he's not allowed to move. Maybe it's the deliberate way she takes her time, teasing, holding back, watching him squirm under the weight of anticipation. Or maybe it's just her gaze, steady and unflinching, telling him with her eyes that she's in charge tonight. That kind of presence leaves him powerless, and paradoxically, that powerlessness is exactly what makes the moment so powerful. It's important to understand that fantasies like this aren't about weakness. In fact, they're the opposite. Men who fantasize about role reversal aren't giving up their masculinity. They're enhancing intimacy by allowing their partner to explore her own strength and sensuality. It creates a balance where both partners get to experience different dimensions of themselves. On one night, he's the leader, the initiator, the one in control. On another, she claims that role, and suddenly the dynamic feels fresh, thrilling, and alive again. That alternation keeps the connection electric because it ensures that the bedroom never falls into predictable patterns. And the truth is, this doesn't just stay in the bedroom. When a man experiences his partner taking control in this way, it deepens his respect and admiration for her outside of intimacy as well. It reminds him that she has layers, that she's bold enough to step into places that make both of them slightly uncomfortable, and that she's willing to keep the spark alive. It's the kind of thing that strengthens trust, because letting her take charge requires him to let go, to be vulnerable, and vulnerability is the bedrock of intimacy. So when you peel back the layers of this secret fantasy, it's not just about handcuffs, blindfolds, or positions. It's about the deeper hunger to feel surprised, to feel led, and to feel that the woman beside him is not just participating, but truly owning the moment. That is what role reversal means to a man. It's not a loss of control. It's an invitation to experience a different kind of connection, one where surrender and power dance together in the most electrifying way. There's something almost primal about the way anticipation works in intimacy. Men may not always say it out loud, but many secretly fantasize about the thrill of blindfolds and sensory play. At first glance, it might sound simple. Cover his eyes and tease him a little, but the reality of the experience runs far deeper. When a man allows himself to be blindfolded, he's stepping into a world where his senses have to work overtime. Without sight, every touch, every sound, every breath against his skin becomes magnified. The anticipation of not knowing what's coming next is what drives his heart rate up, what makes his body tense, and what keeps him hanging on the edge. That sense of unpredictability transforms ordinary moments into something unforgettable. For men, the idea of sensory play taps into a very specific kind of vulnerability. He's no longer in control, no longer anticipating what he sees, but instead forced to surrender to pure sensation. This surrender, however, isn't frightening, it's liberating. When you take away a man's ability to see, you take away his ability to prepare or to guard himself. He has no choice but to trust her and let go. That trust in itself is an aphrodisiac. It signals to him that he can safely lose himself in the experience because she is guiding the moment. And when trust and surrender mix, passion reaches a level that routine simply can't achieve. The beauty of blindfolds lies in how they turn the smallest gestures into electrifying encounters. A simple kiss on the neck feels like fire. Fingertips brushing across the skin feel like lightning. Even the sound of her moving, the quiet rustle of sheets, or the whisper of her voice becomes a trigger that ignites his imagination. Without his eyes to confirm what's happening, his mind fills in the blanks, often in ways more intense than reality. That's the magic of sensory play. It isn't just physical, it's psychological. His own imagination conspires against him, amplifying every sensation and making him crave the next one even more. And this isn't only about what he experiences, it's also about what it reveals in her. When she blindfolds him, she becomes the architect of his pleasure. She controls the pace, the rhythm, the intensity. She decides whether to tease him endlessly or surprise him with something he never saw coming, literally. For him, this is intoxicating. Not only does it bring variety, but it also makes him see her in a new light, daring, playful, and unpredictable. That shift keeps their connection alive because it ensures that intimacy doesn't become monotonous or routine. Instead, it stays dynamic, layered with new dimensions that continue to unfold. What's often overlooked is how sensory play strengthens emotional closeness. When a man allows himself to be blindfolded, he's showing trust in its rawest form. He's saying, I'm giving you control over my experience, and that kind of vulnerability is powerful. It's not just about spice, it's about building a deeper bond where both partners step into roles they may not usually occupy. He learns to let go, she learns to lead, and together they create a rhythm of connection that carries beyond the bedroom. It becomes less about an accessory and more about an exchange of trust and playfulness that strengthens their relationship at its core. At the heart of it, blindfolds and sensory play are about curiosity. Men secretly crave it because it breaks away from predictability and taps into the unknown. It's not about complicated techniques or extreme measures. It's about amplifying what's already there by stripping away one sense and letting the others take control. That little piece of fabric over his eyes opens the door to a world where touch, sound, and anticipation merge into one unforgettable experience. And for him, that's not just kinky, it's intoxicating. There's a reason light bondage and restraints show up in so many hidden fantasies. It speaks to something deeper than just the physical. For men, the idea of being tied down or even tying their partner up isn't simply about restriction. It's about intensity, about amplifying the feeling of desire, and about adding a sense of drama that heightens the experience. When restraint enters the picture, it forces focus. It strips away all distractions and locks both partners into the moment. And for many men, that level of focus, where every sensation is sharper, every touch feels urgent, and every second feels stretched, is intoxicating. The fantasy of light bondage is rarely about control in its harshest form. It's not about dominance in the way people might think. It's about creating contrast. Imagine the difference between freedom of movement and the inability to move at all. When a man's wrists are gently bound, he's suddenly stripped of his usual freedom. He can't grab, can't hold, can't take charge. Instead, he's left to simply receive, to feel, and to trust. That vulnerability, paired with the thrill of surrender, makes him feel more alive than routine ever could. And when the roles are reversed, when he's the one doing the tying, what excites him isn't cruelty, but the power of being trusted enough to take her into that space and keep her safe while pushing boundaries. What makes restraints so powerful is that they shift the way intimacy is experienced. If a man can't move his hands, suddenly the brush of lips on his neck feels like a spark. If she can't move hers, then every inch of his touch becomes magnified. It forces both of them to slow down, to savor, to stretch the moment longer than they normally would. The result is that pleasure doesn't just happen. It builds layer by layer until anticipation becomes almost unbearable. That slow build is what men secretly crave because it turns an encounter into something memorable, something that lingers in the body long after it's over. There's also a psychological layer to it. Light bondage taps into the playful side of intimacy, the side that says, let's explore something we wouldn't usually try. It's not about pain or extremes. It's about curiosity and discovery. For a man, the act of being restrained is thrilling not because he loses power, but because he gains a new perspective. He learns what it feels like to let go completely, to hand over the reins, to immerse himself fully without thinking of the next move. On the flip side, when he ties her hands or uses restraints on her, he's equally captivated by her willingness to surrender, by the trust she's showing, and by the chance to explore a side of himself that's more commanding, more daring. What often surprises men about this fantasy is how much it strengthens connection. Bondage, when done with care and consent, isn't cold or distant, it's intimate. It requires communication, trust, and an understanding of limits. For him, knowing that she trusts him enough to allow restraint makes him feel valued, respected, and admired in ways that words can't capture. It's not about the rope or the cuffs, it's about the unspoken message that says, I trust you with me. That message makes the bond between them even stronger. At its core, light bondage is less about props and more about what they symbolize. The moment restraints come into play, the ordinary rules of interaction are suspended. He's either surrendering to her control or stepping into the role of her guide, and both versions create electricity. That electricity fuels passion, fuels playfulness, and fuels the kind of intimacy that breaks free from the predictable patterns of everyday life. And that's why, even if he never admits it out loud, the thought of ropes, cuffs, or even something as simple as holding his hands behind his back will always carry a secret thrill for him. When it comes to fantasies men keep tucked away, talking dirty and using erotic communication often rank higher than people expect. It's not just about the words themselves. It's about the energy, the confidence, and the way those words unlock emotions and sensations that silence could never reach. For men, hearing their partner speak desire out loud is a powerful trigger. It reassures them, excites them, and invites them into a space where vulnerability and passion collide. A simple whisper, a playful command, or even a bold declaration can flip a switch inside of him, taking the encounter from ordinary to unforgettable. Most men won't confess how much they crave this because it feels risky to admit. They may worry it sounds shallow, or they may fear being judged. But deep down, what they're really longing for is connection in its rawest form, an experience where words don't just describe, but ignite. The sound of her voice, the choice of her words, the tone she uses, these details cut straight past logic and land in his body. And it doesn't need to be graphic or extreme. Sometimes it's as simple as her expressing how much she wants him, how good he feels, or how much she loves what's happening in the moment. Those affirmations feed his confidence, his desire, and his drive to give even more. Dirty talk also introduces spontaneity, which is one of the reasons men find it so intoxicating. Without it, intimacy can slip into patterns. Kiss here, touch there, move this way. But the moment she breaks the silence with an unexpected phrase, the script is torn up. Suddenly, there's a new level of tension, unpredictability, and excitement. He doesn't know what she'll say next, and that uncertainty keeps him engaged, keeps him invested, keeps him desperate to hear more. It's like oxygen for the fire. They may already be burning together, but words keep the flames rising higher. The interesting thing is, men crave not only to hear dirty talk, but also to be given permission to speak it themselves. Many hold back because they're unsure of what's welcome, unsure if their partner will find it sexy or awkward. When she initiates it, she opens the door for him to step into that space without fear. Suddenly, he can express fantasies, desires, and emotions he might otherwise keep hidden. This exchange of words becomes more than playful. It becomes liberating. It allows both partners to be honest about what they want, what they love, and what they dream of, all while wrapped in passion. What makes this fantasy so potent is that it operates on multiple levels. On the surface, it's a tool to amplify arousal, but underneath, it's a demonstration of boldness and authenticity. For a man, hearing his partner confidently say what she feels in the moment is irresistible. It shows him she's not just participating, but fully immersed, fully invested, and unafraid of letting her desire show. That raw honesty is what men crave. It tells them the intimacy is real, alive, and shared. In truth, erotic communication isn't just about pleasure, it's about trust. To talk openly in those moments requires vulnerability, and vulnerability creates intimacy that lingers long after the moment ends. When he hears her voice break the silence with something playful, commanding, or passionate, it doesn't just make him want her more, it makes him feel closer to her. It reminds him that she's not holding back, that she's willing to give herself completely, not just physically, but emotionally. And for men, that's the kind of fantasy that doesn't just excite them, it fulfills them. There's a certain kind of thrill men secretly crave that doesn't come from elaborate setups or complicated techniques. It comes from risk. Not the dangerous kind, but the playful, adrenaline-fueled idea of intimacy in places where there's a small chance of being caught. This public risk factor is a fantasy that taps into excitement, rebellion, and spontaneity all at once. It's not about being reckless, but about stepping just far enough outside the rules to feel alive. For many men, this fantasy isn't about location itself, it's about the rush of knowing they're breaking routine, bending boundaries, and creating a memory that feels like their little secret. Think about it. Most of the time, intimacy happens in safe, private, predictable environments. The door is locked, the lights are low, and everything feels secure. But when that changes, even just slightly, the entire experience transforms. A kiss in a quiet corner, a touch under the table, a whisper in the car. Suddenly, every sensation is amplified. His pulse races faster, his focus sharpens, and the intensity skyrockets because there's more at stake. For men, that sense of danger mixed with pleasure is irresistible. It's not the act itself that excites them the most, it's the possibility. The possibility of being seen, of pushing limits, of experiencing passion in a space where it shouldn't happen. This fantasy isn't really about exhibitionism. It's not about wanting strangers to watch. It's about intimacy wrapped in secrecy. The public setting creates an invisible stage where two people are the only ones aware of what's really happening. It's their hidden rebellion, their playful conspiracy against the ordinary. That's what makes it magnetic to men. It's less about being bold in front of others and more about feeling that exhilarating bond of, we're doing something we're not supposed to. That kind of secrecy strengthens connection because it feels like they're sharing something only the two of them could understand. What makes this fantasy even more powerful is how it changes the way he sees her. When she's willing to step into that thrill with him, whether it's making out passionately in a parked car, sneaking in a moment in a quiet hallway, or teasing him in a setting where others are nearby, he sees her as adventurous, daring, and uninhibited. It reassures him that their spark isn't confined to safe spaces, that she's willing to embrace playfulness and excitement outside the usual script. That makes her not only desirable but unforgettable. And yet, what often surprises men is how this fantasy strengthens emotional intimacy too. It's not just about passion in unexpected places, it's about teamwork. Both of them are in on it, both of them are aware of the risk, and both of them are navigating that charged moment together. That creates a bond, a shared adrenaline rush that can make even small gestures unforgettable. The memory of a stolen kiss in a public place will linger far longer than a routine night in bed because it carries with it the thrill of secrecy and spontaneity. At its core, the public risk factor is about escaping predictability. Men crave it because it makes them feel alive, because it reminds them that intimacy doesn't have to follow the same pattern every time. It can be daring, playful, and electric even in the simplest of settings. The fantasy isn't really about location, it's about emotion. It's about adrenaline pumping through their veins, about laughter after the risk is taken, about knowing they've created a memory that belongs only to them. That's what makes this desire so powerful. For men, it's not just kinky, it's the reminder that passion is at its best when it's unpredictable. One of the most captivating fantasies men keep hidden is the desire to see a woman fully embrace her dominant side. It's not something he'll casually bring up, because on the surface it seems to clash with the idea of masculinity. But underneath, there's a deep craving to witness her confidence in its rawest, boldest form. For men, watching a partner step into that commanding role isn't about losing their own strength. It's about seeing her power, her presence, and her sensuality in a way that doesn't usually get expressed. It's about letting her take the reins unapologetically and discovering how electrifying it feels when she decides exactly what happens and when it happens. Men are often expected to lead, not only in everyday life, but especially in intimacy. They carry the unspoken responsibility of driving things forward, of initiating, of creating momentum. But in secret, many fantasize about what it would be like if she flipped that script. When she takes control, he feels the rush of surprise. He doesn't know what she'll do next, and that unpredictability excites him. The way she might guide him, instruct him, or even tease him with her confidence creates a new kind of intensity. It's not just the act itself that excites him, it's the energy she brings when she decides to own the moment without hesitation. This fantasy is deeply psychological. When a man sees his partner step into dominance, he's seeing a new side of her, one that may not come out in daily life. Maybe she's usually sweet, gentle, and nurturing, but in this space, she's bold, assertive, and commanding. That transformation fascinates him. It's like uncovering a hidden layer of who she is, and that discovery keeps the connection fresh. It reassures him that she's not only willing to explore, but also daring enough to surprise him. And when she surprises him, she keeps him hooked. What makes this desire even stronger is the balance it creates. For men, it's not about being overpowered in a negative way. It's about balance in the relationship. One night he leads. Another night she takes over. That push and pull keeps intimacy alive because it prevents either partner from slipping into a fixed role that becomes too predictable. When she's the one in charge, he gets to relax into vulnerability, to let go of expectations, and to enjoy the thrill of being guided. And the truth is, that surrender doesn't make him weaker. It makes him more connected because he's experiencing her strength in a way that enhances the bond between them. The beauty of a woman stepping into dominance is that it doesn't require extremes. It can be as simple as her confidently telling him what she wants, or as bold as her restraining him, teasing him, or dictating the pace without compromise. Even her tone of voice, the firmness in her gaze, or the way she directs his movements can be enough to drive him wild. For men, it's less about the specific actions and more about the aura she creates, the unapologetic confidence that says, "Tonight, I decide." That aura is what makes the fantasy unforgettable. At the heart of it, this secret craving is really about trust. For a man to allow his partner to step into dominance, he has to let go. He has to believe that she knows him well enough to take him to places he's never been before, both physically and emotionally. And when she does, it strengthens their connection. It creates a deeper respect because he sees her not just as his lover, but as someone capable of leading with power and passion. That realization makes the bond stronger, the attraction deeper, and the memories far more intense. So while it may remain unspoken, the truth is that many men secretly yearn for moments where she unleashes her dominant side, not because he wants to surrender his masculinity, but because he wants to feel the fire of her confidence. He wants to see her shine in her boldest form, to be surprised by her strength, and to be reminded that intimacy isn't just about roles, it's about exploration. And when she dares to step into that space, she doesn't just fulfill his fantasy, she creates a connection that he'll never forget.